Is it on? Oh, hey. Welcome to the show today. I'm here today to talk about something that is very, very, very important to me, and I believe to you, which is the Constitution of Zimbabwe. I don't have much ado to give, so we just jump right in. The Constitution of Zimbabwe is a very, 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 very necessary and important document that we all perhaps must know. Second to your religious text, if you are a Bible reader like me, you have to read your Bible as well as your Constitution. You need to have a pocket Constitution. Put your Constitution in your pocket to carry around so that you can use it as a weapon to defend yourself against constitutional abuses, as well as to defend your nation against constitutional abusers, as well as to promote what the Constitution of Zimbabwe says about its people, its resources, the people in power, the people in charge, the law enforcement people, community members. We have to know and understand the Constitution, for it is like a guide. We are tourists touring around a new area, and we don't know it that much. We have to be guided by somebody that sat down, drew the map of the place, and said, if you want to get from point A to point B, you go that way. People that organize, design highways, walkways, everything, they direct the traffic, the flow of traffic. This side stops at this point while this other direction goes, and so forth and so on. The Constitution is designed in similar fashion. We all come from a diverse background, if I may. We have different religions, we have different cultural backgrounds, all in Zimbabwe. We have different interests, different characteristics, different attitudes, different heights, different skin tones, different mitupo, different izibongo, different anything. But there is one unifying aspect that we have to identify for us to actually pull together as a nation, and that is the Constitution, whose preamble I'm going to be talking about today, and the rest of the bits and pieces of the Constitution that are quite necessary for us to function as a nation with a government that also observes the same Constitution that it presided over, its creation, inception, and implementation. These are the things that we need to know. And if we don't know what we're supposed to know, then we could be put in predicaments, in situations that we do not know how to get out of. And then there are some people that may take advantage of our not knowing to harm us, to put us in harm's way, to defraud us, to enrich themselves, to promote their ambitions, and at the expense of the nation. So without much ado, I don't have many ados to give. We are going to go and discuss the preamble to the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Hello, and thank you for joining this time that you've joined. Afternoon, evening, morning, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, late night, doesn't matter. All are welcome. This is the place. Let's go. Let's get going. So the document, the Constitution, has a preamble, which is like the intro to the Constitution. It just sets the tone for whatever is contained with within this document. This is the warm up. This is you're going to be greeted by things which are going to be predicated on these words, and these words do not necessarily start with we the government or we the leaders. These are words that literally set the tone. In other words, I'm just talking too much about it, but the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution says, we the people of Zimbabwe. And that is not just poetic declaration. It is a declaration of ownership. You and me are the owners. It is a legal statement that the highest authority in Zimbabwe is not parliament. It is not the presidency. It is not the military order or party structure. The highest authority is the people themselves. It is you. It is me. It is the kid that's running down the street right now. It is that old man that's standing on the corner. It is that old lady that's selling something on the street corner. It is the vendor. It is the graduate. It is a lawyer. The preamble to our constitution is not just a poetic introduction. It sounds great though, but it is a foundational statement of values. It is a source of interpretive power and a compact between our government of Zimbabwe and we, the people, we the peeps. It is a contract. We have to view it and use it as a contract. And thus, I will read what the preamble to the Constitution of Zimbabwe says. It says, "We, the people of Zimbabwe, united in our diversity by our common desire for freedom, justice, and equality, and our heroic resistance to colonialism, racism, and all forms of domination and oppression, exalting and extolling the brave men and women who sacrificed their lives during the Chimurenga and the national liberation struggles, honoring our forebears and compatriots who toiled for the progress of our country, recognizing the need to entrench democracy, good, transparent, and accountable governance, and the rule of law, reaffirming our commitment to upholding and defending fundamental human rights and freedoms, acknowledging the richness of our natural resources, celebrating the vibrancy of our traditions and cultures, determined to overcome all challenges and obstacles that impede our progress, cherishing freedom, equality, peace, justice, tolerance, prosperity, and patriotism in search of new frontiers under a common destiny. Acknowledging the supremacy of Almighty God, in whose hands our future lies. Resolve by the tenets of this Constitution to commit ourselves to build a united, just, and prosperous nation founded on values of transparency, equality, freedom, fairness, honesty, and the dignity of hard work, and imploring the guidance and support of Almighty God, hereby make this Constitution and commit ourselves to it as the fundamental law of our beloved land." Beautiful, lovely. It invokes God twice or thrice, however many times, but it is predicated on the recognition and realization that we fear and value God. That is the foundation of our nation. But my question to you is, how do we make those words real? How do we translate them, convert them into reality? For now, they're just words. When you have them in the Constitution, when you have them in your pocket Constitution or your Constitution, when you have them, what do they mean? Do they have any power? Do they have any value? Or are they just words on paper or phone screen? What then do we need them for? What happens when people in power who swore to uphold this document turn and use the state machinery against the very people they were meant to serve? What happens when people discriminate based on, I don't know, tribal background, religious, cultural, skin tone, whatever? So To answer that is the reason why I sat down in this chair and decided to translate these words from ceremonial language into everyday meaning for us, everyday people, for whom it was created for. When he says, we the people of Zimbabwe, united in our diversity, it means that Zimbabwe does not belong to one person, doesn't belong to one political party, it doesn't belong to one elite class. It is not a country for one region, one war generation. It belongs equally to Debeles, Shona, Venda, Karanga, Kalanga. It belongs to Methodists. It belongs to Johani Masowe people. It belongs to Gutaramwari. It belongs to ZCC Mbungwe. It belongs to people of all walks. It belongs to short people, tall people. And nobody shall force anyone into anything, believing anything by force, by trickery or intimidation, which is outside of what the document of the land says. I'm reminded of the commitment to freedom and equality of Nelson Mandela, who said at one point, I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black denomination. There's a song about that. It's a house song. And I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die for. That was Comrade Nelson. When our Constitution preamble says our common desire for freedom, justice, and equality, it is telling us that freedom is not supposed to be a privilege granted to us by somebody, by our leaders when it suits them. Freedom for you and me is a right that's inalienable. Freedom is a fundamental human right that was there before government, before political party. It gives us the capacity to make choices, to act without external coercion, and a social concept essential for human dignity and progress. That's what freedom is. Without freedom, a nation, a society cannot progress. At the same time, it is justice is not selective, a tool used to punish political opponents while protesting elites. Equality means there should be not one law for the politically connected and another for the ordinary citizen, me and you. That's not what it means. It means that everybody is the same in the eyes of the law. When this preamble that I just read speaks of the heroic resistance to colonialism, racism, and all forms of domination, this is a reminder, Zimbabweans, to you and me, that the liberation war was not fought so that we just had substitute old colonial masters for newer ones who look like us. No. We need a constant reminder every day and proofing of our society to ensure that colonial conditions never ever rear their ugly head amongst us again. And we have to use the Constitution for that. Chimrenga was fought so that no Zimbabwean, black, mostly black, and all white, should never live under an oppressive hand again. The Constitution is one such proof, meant to prevent a black government or majority black government from doing to its own people what a white colonial government once did to our grandparents. And some of the people in our government today lived under colonial oppression. They know better how conditions were back then. And so it just, I don't know how it really sits with them to want to mete out the unheard of enormities that were done upon our people and them. People were jailed for their political beliefs. People were taken away from their families for their political beliefs. I heard a story of my own great-grandfather who was jailed for refusing to pay his taxes to the colonial government. He had quite a lot of livestock, and animal tax was instituted upon blacks. It was a burden, a heavy burden, because in addition to having a lot of livestock, he had children, some of whom were in school, and he had to make a decision, a choice, to use the meager amounts of money that he had. He didn't want to get rid of his livestock. Livestock was wealth, is wealth for us. You already know the story. And so he was taken away from his family, his pregnant wife, my great-grandmother, and thrown into prison. It was a labor camp, and he was working. And so when the baby was born, which was a boy, the family sent a person to go to the prison camp to find him so that he could, and give him the good news, and also so that he could give the name of the baby. He could name the child. And so there was miscommunication because the person who was sent to go there could not gain access into the prison camp. It was fenced off. And so they were yelling at each other over the fence. And the miscommunication led to naming of one of my great-grandparents a different name, or other than that which the father had wanted. And that name stuck, and it became my grandmother's last name. It became the surname. And so that's one child who was misnamed, the name stuck, and then started a completely different branch of descendants from his brothers. So that was I'm saying that it's a little bit of a funny story, but at the same time, it's a very sad story, because this is a man who was dragged away from his family involuntarily because he could not afford to pay taxes imposed by the colonial government, which was their tactic to impose taxes, heavy tax burdens on people who, if they could not pay, they'll be dragged away to a prison, labor camp, and work for the colonial government with very little to no pay to pay for their burden. So they'll get very little pay, meaning that they would have to work longer. And we people, part of the reason people went to war was to actually unburden black people of that. So when we crafted and came up with a constitution in which everybody endorsed it, or the majority endorsed it, they were to be safeguards against any government of this land of Zimbabwe ever becoming close to what the colonial government was. So we need to keep an eye out for the telltale signs of those conditions. And this is just one condition. There were many, many other conditions that most of us have heard from the war generation. They are not shy. They don't keep quiet about the inhumanities that the people of our skin tone during that time suffered in our own country, on our own land that had been colonized. So when our constitution says, recognizing the need to entrench democracy, transparent and accountable government, and the rule of law, this means that the leaders chosen by the people do not have to rule by personal will, but by law. And the law is visible, knowledgeable, challengeable by the people. Transparency means deals done with foreign powers, for example, mining contracts, national budgets, tenders issued, vote counts, all of it should not be hidden from the people. People have to be able to request Freedom of Information Acts. They have to be able to get the information. An accountable government means those in office are beholden to the people, not a political party, not a group of elites, but to the broader citizenry, to the people. They are beholden to us. Being in office, when it speaks of upholding and defending fundamental human rights, that includes your rights to speak freely, to ask difficult questions, to protest peacefully, to demand public records, and to associate with others without needing permission from a minister or a police officer, without suffering threats of violence by the government. Because these are not acts of rebellion. They are constitutional expressions of citizenship. And any state action that tries to criminalize these rights is in direct conflict with this very preamble to the Constitution of Zimbabwe that we are discussing right here. And I've seen and heard when people plan to protest or march or do this, and you have government officials really coming out strong and threatening people, levying threats of violence and death, as if the people don't have the protection of the Constitution. It is quite unfair. And we have to, at this point, we have to be able to understand what the same Constitution that we all say Zimbabwe is a constitutional republic. We have a democratically elected government. And if everything is democratic, then that has to give us, the citizens, the right to actually do democratic stuff. And democratic stuff entails abiding by the Constitution. And that doesn't mean one person or another. It means all of us, the whole of us. And nobody should be exempt from abiding by the document that guides us as a nation. It continues, acknowledging the richness of our natural resources. This goes beyond waxing poetic. In fact, it is waxing lyrical. Zimbabweans are very expressive people. This part means Zimbabwe's gold, diamonds, lithium, land, water, forests do not belong to any private politician, business alliance. They all belong to the people. Do they belong to the people? Wait, let's see what the Constitution says. Yes, it says so. And I just read it. Everything belongs to the people of Zimbabwe. Okay, boys, let's pack up and go. We're done here. So, see, if contracts are signed that benefit just a few people, a few individuals, while hospitals remain empty, schools lack books, roads remain in disrepair, and civil servants are underpaid, then the spirit of this Constitution has been violated. We must note that the people who belong on this land, us, whose ancestors have been around for eons, our ancestors had great love for this land. Everything that the Creator endowed our land with. And they were great stewards because they knew they wanted to pass these natural endowments to us, therefore their descendants, to do the same thing to those who come after us. Not foreign nationals, not Chinese people, not anybody else. Secure land rights are a fundamental pillar of human rights. And without a home, it is a profound source of injustice. There is a global crisis right now of landlessness, which affects up to a quarter of the world's poor right now, people with no homes. It drives poverty inequality, and powerlessness, especially for vulnerable and indigenous communities. This dispossession is not a matter of property, but also a direct assault on economic well-being, cultural identity, and self-determination. So, global efforts, including instruments like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, exist to protect the land rights of marginalized communities. In our nation, there's a worrying development, severely worrying, where communities that never really got their ancestral lands fully restored to them to begin with after colonial occupation are being displaced for foreign corporate mining interests and other state-invited foreign investor projects. The path forward requires now a stronger legal enforcement, a greater respect for the Constitution, prioritization of human rights, and societal awareness of constitutional protections that people have to address the historical and present injustices that have made so many people landless, poor, hopeless, and while only a few people are benefiting from any land reform programs. We need to bring all this together and then bring out the Constitution. The preamble goes on to say, celebrating the vibrancy of our traditions and cultures. This is a reminder that progress should not mean cultural erasure or political conformity. Every region, every language, every group, every community, every tradition matters. No one should feel like they're a guest on their own land. In fact, there is a need for us to restore a great many aspects of our traditions and incorporate them into government, also legislatively to protect and to legislatively protect them. Our government, if you think about it, doesn't reflect who we are as the diverse people. There's no aspects of the Kore Kore culture. There's no aspects of the Venda culture. There's no aspect of Tonga culture. There's no aspect of, but we have aspects of European colonial relics or remnants. The justice system, we still practice it as if we were still back in 1967. It's such a pity that we have not tried to find our way back to incorporate some of the traditions of how our ancestors did arbitration, our ancestors did business deals, how they found common ground. We have scholars, we have people that know how things were in the past. So we have to incorporate it into our everyday lives. We don't have to ignore our traditions. We don't have to tread them underfoot, sweep them under the carpet, because they are exactly part and parcel of us. They're not just for chiefs' courts or between families, between members of a similar tribe or anything. We need to at least find ways, work them into the legislation one way or another. You know, we can find common ground in all of them, run a thread through, just get what's common, what's similar. And then the Constitution is aware, wants us to be aware of our culture and our values. The preamble continues, determined to overcome all challenges that impede progress. This implies that leadership is not supposed to make life harder, but to remove barriers between citizens and opportunity. Simple as all that. Policies that crush small businesses, discourage investment from locals, while favoring foreign elites or create unnecessary bureaucracy, contradict that commitment, this very commitment. Actions undertaken by our governments as well, all of us must respect this aspect. We all have to believe and fight for. We all need to grow organically. We all need to utilize we hear the phrases and the statements and the declarations the government makes, but most of them don't make sense because they say one thing and do the other. which is very, very disheartening. And then they favor foreign entities, foreign nationals, and foreign companies. They have clearly said it, that foreign companies hold sway in this. They hold sway in this in our nation because they have more money to bring to develop the nation. But then there's nothing. There's very little to see about that investment that comes from foreign nationals. It goes on to speak of transparency, equality, freedom, fairness, honesty, and the dignity of hard work. This means that corruption is not just immoral, it is unconstitutional. When officials live in luxury while hospitals lack mere bandages, when tenders are awarded in secrecy, when foreign companies received more protection than citizens of the land, this is a direct betrayal of the constitutional values of our country. So how do we hold violations accountable? I think first we have to recognize the Constitution, that it gives you and me permission. It empowers us to ask, show us the mining contract, show us the budget report, show us how much was paid for that project, who received the payment. When they refuse, they are not refusing us as individuals. They are refusing the authority of the Constitution itself. And that is illegal. They are committing a crime if they are refusing to respect the Constitution. There have been moments when ordinary citizens have used these documents and won. There have been court rulings where judges declared that police cannot ban a protest without legal basis. There have been legal victories where citizens demanded information about diamond revenues and the court affirmed the constitutional right to know. There have been many cases, it's possible, where the state tried to silence activists, but the Constitution stood as their shield, forcing the system to release them. These victories are rarely broadcast on state media. You'll never see them on ZPC. But they prove something important. The Constitution is not a dead document. It can be used, and when used correctly, even the most powerful have to answer for it. Nobody is above the law, and nobody should be above the law. Nobody should not be answerable. Everybody should have a part to play in upholding the Constitution. It doesn't matter who they are. They're the president, they're the person who sweeps the streets, they're the person who is herding cattle, they're a person who is a doctor, they're a pilot, they are a maid, they are a person who works on the as a farmer, they're a mechanic. It doesn't matter. We all have the same duty, and it's as simple as that. If we become a nation that respects this one single document, then we actually do have a nation that functions, that works, and progress is guaranteed. Believe me, people, it is possible for us to do that, and we have to do it. Let's start somewhere. Let's learn the Constitution, okay? Let's learn Zimbabwe. Now, but here's a serious issue, really, all playing aside. It is quite tragic that Zimbabweans do suffer, and not because we lack a strong constitution. The tragedy is that the Constitution written in the name of the people is not known by the people. So having said that, the serious issue, in all fairness and all seriousness, let's be serious for a moment. Get close. Gather around. Boys, gather around. We're about to talk about something important here. We're about to talk about the sky. We do not have to mad-lib the Constitution. No mad-libbing. No picking and choosing and finishing up sentences in the Constitution in the most silliest way. No disrespecting of the Constitution. Let's be serious and honest. And as Zimbabweans, now that you've gathered around, we have a tragic situation. We suffer, but not because we lack a strong constitution. We suffer a very tragic case of a lack of knowledge. of the Constitution. My people perish because of a lack of knowledge. If you have read the Bible like I do or have done, knowledge is power. Knowing is important. And we do not necessarily know or want to know this one important document which will help us. It's like a shield, but a shield that's not lifted. You just keep your shield right down here and you don't lift it to block. It's as useless as having no shield at all. So the first step towards accountability is awareness. A citizen who knows Section 62, that it gives them the right to demand access to information from any public office, becomes a dangerous weapon to corruption. A citizen who knows they can approach the Constitutional Court under Section 85 without needing a lawyer becomes a threat to the abuse of power. Just so you know. But we are not fighting here. We want to use loving words, progressive words. The Preamble declared that democracy, accountability, and justice are not optional ideals. They're national commitments. They're promises made to the spirits of those comrades who died in the liberation struggle. All of them. And if today oppression returns in new uniform, if fear is used once again as a political tool, if citizens are beaten for holding placards or journalists are arrested for asking questions, then we have not honored the liberation struggle at all. We have simply changed the color of the oppressor, and that is not acceptable, ladies and gentlemen. So what do, you ask? Good question. We must do away with the idea that knowledge of the Constitution is for lawyers, politicians, activists only. It is for you, me, combi drivers, nurses, the people I mentioned about, everybody, youngsters, old stars, people in between, all generations, all ages, everything. The right to protest peacefully belongs to you and me, not because a minister allowed it, but because the Constitution said so. The right to ask for government records belongs to you and me. The right to challenge unfair laws belongs to you and me. Peacefully. We don't need to fight. We've done enough fighting in the past. Now we need to use this. We need to move beyond slogans into structured knowledge. Singing of a song of freedom is powerful. Yes, I love it. But knowing the law that guarantees that freedom is far more superior. It is time that we memorize not just the names of our heroes, but the words that protect the living as well. It is time we realize that the Constitution was not designed to be recited in courtrooms, but to be lived in the streets, in the ghettos, in the places, in the suburbs, uptown, in farms, schools, parliament, hospitals, churches, everywhere. At the football pitch, the Constitution is still holds. The Constitution begins with we the people, because it is a reminder leadership can abuse power. Systems can be captured, but the original source of authority will always remain the citizens. Government does not grant rights. It recognizes rights that already belong to the people. And when government forgets that, it is the duty of the people to remind it peacefully, firmly, legally, with unwavering conviction. Okay, boys? If we do not guard our own Constitution, others will continue to rule us in ways that serve them, not us. If we study it, the Constitution, speak it, teach it, and use it, even without guns, without violence, without chaos, we can transform our nation. Because the most powerful tool in a democracy is not the loudest voice, but the citizen that knows. Yes. Right? Right. And so let us return to that beginning. We, the people of Zimbabwe. These words are not mere ceremony. They are a transfer of power, a declaration that the struggle for Black people's dignity did not end in 1980. It continues whenever a citizen stands up and says, show me the law, show me the contract, Show me the budget. Respect my right. The Constitution is not a book. It is a weapon of peace. Use it, guard it, teach it. The Constitution is not a book. It is a weapon of peace. So use it, guard it, teach it. Because the day we all understand it is the day oppression, no matter how it disguises itself, begins to fear us. You've been wonderful people. And boys and girls, we'll talk about more Constitution stuff from a non-lawyer. Not a lawyer. But if there's any lawyer around and about, hey, feel free to come down in the comment and let's talk about this and figure a way how to propagate, to preach the evangel of the Constitution, and let the people be armed with a pocket Constitution, with knowledge. Knowledge is power. No guns needed, no spears, no shields, no knives, but just wisdom and knowledge and belief that we actually do have a country that works, and a faith that we all will. I have faith. I actually do have faith that we all are going to be, at the end of this, we will be knowledgeable, and we will be better off than we are all beginning, because we're starting from a point of zero, or just not zero. A lot of us know, a lot of you know, maybe more than me. Most of you know more than me when it comes to our Constitution, but I'm learning as we are going, and help me learn, help me help you learn, and there's no limit other than the sky, ain't it? Okay, we'll chat next time. It's been real. Cheers.